It's beer o'clock on Real Ale Craft Beer. Today we're going to be taking a look at a beer from Brewdog called Basic Shake. This is a Milkshake IPA coming in at 4.7% ABV in a 330 milliliter can. Bringing hops to the yard is the slogan of this beer down the side. As we wrap the can around, you can see we have lots of other languages. There's some Japanese there and other languages. Well, I mean, Brewdog's an international brewer now, and they sell their beer probably in a lot of countries where they can around the world, so they're going to have a lot of different languages down the side of the can. Without further ado, let's get this can out into a glass and see what we get. I paid £5 for a box of 4, a cardboard box of 4 of this. The beer is 4.7% ABV. Picked it up in Asda, but I understand you can also pick this beer up in Sainsbury's for that same £5 price point. There's a look at the beer then. We got a 2-finger white head. Hazy, light, very light amber, almost straw coloured beer. And I'm going to go into this beer review like I've gone into what was that beer I just reviewed it the other day. Oh, let's get into this, and we'll get to all of that later on. There's 2 beers that have just completely flown out of my mind. Just for Parma Violet, that's it. One was Parma Violet, and then 6 months before we did another beer from Brewdog, which I thought I wouldn't like both beers. I went into it thinking, oh, you know, we'll review it. It's a Brewdog beer, and I actually really liked the 2 beers. Now the Parma Violet beer, I've read the comments in the comments box on that review. I reviewed that last week. There's a lot of people, like, some people absolutely love the beer, some people absolutely hate it. But I was in that I really like the beer camp. It was £2.40 for the 440 milliliter can. Likewise, for £5 for a box of 4, that's coming in, what is it, £1.50? £4.50? 3, no, less than that, £1.32? £1.32 a can, I think this comes in at, for a box of 4. What I'm trying to say is that I'm going to go into this beer review very open-minded, very, very open-minded. As I always do, but I'm slightly apprehensive with this Milkshake IPA, just for the name, Milkshake IPA. It's going to be full of lactose in it. But credit where credit's due. It smells pretty good, it does. I know Brewdog have changed their head brewer in the last year. They've changed their head brewer, and I think personally they've benefited from changing the head brewer. They seem to be getting more from their ingredients than they were before under the previous head brewer. This aroma's, it's okay. It's a bit tutti fruity. You still get a little bit of that kind of classic Brewdog aroma. Maybe it's the water in the beer. Maybe it's the treatment that they use to treat the water. But there's definitely a certain Brewdog aroma that seems to carry through all of their beers these days. Let's dive in. Cheers, everybody. Yeah, this is Mallow Quest. I got it. It's in my mind. Mallow Quest. I didn't think I'd like Mallow Quest. Didn't really think I'd like the Parma Violet beer, but I like both. I like both. little bit apprehensive going into this beer. Milkshake IPA. Unfortunately, there's not much to this at all. There's not much to this at all. It's just it's super drinkable. I mean, the beer slides down. But in terms of hops, in terms of malt, it's almost like it's a neutral beer. It's almost like, yes, it's definitely a beer, but that's as far as it goes. It's a beer, but there's not much. There's not a lot going on. It's really odd. This is a really odd beer. I mean, I'm smashing it down like there's no tomorrow. But at the same time, I'm waiting for hops to come through. And there's next to no hops coming through. And I'm waiting for a bit of sweet malt. And there's not much sweet malt coming through either. It's like... It's like I'm drinking this beer with no taste buds. It's like my palate has completely disappeared. I can get the mouthfeel, I can feel the creamy mouthfeel, that lactosey mouthfeel. I can feel how drinkable it is, I can feel the carbonation. But other than that, I can't really taste anything. And this is a super odd beer from Brewdog. There's a touch of tangerine, a small touch of tangerine, but I mean, I have taste buds. I've just finished reviewing. I went to Asda yesterday and I just picked up the Astrid, which is a Thornbridge beer, coming in at 3.8% ABV, nearly a whole percent lower per in the ABV, 4.7 for the Brewdog, 3.8 for the Thornbridge. So there's a whole percent there, more or less, in ABV. And the Thornbridge beer was delicious. The Thornbridge beer was just so lovely and tropical. And yeah, here we go. Super flavoursome, super juicy, super lovely from Thornbridge. But this, a whole 1% ABV higher. It's smashable, it's drinkable. But we used to have a beer around in the South Wales area years ago. My father used to tell me stories about it. It was called Albright Best Bitter. And it was like a very popular beer all over the South Wales valleys. And it was a beer at like 3.5% ABV, but it was like ultra drinkable. Everybody drank it because they could drink it really quickly. And it's almost like Brewdog have gone down that same path with this. They've produced an ultra sessionable, drinkable beer, lactosey, it'll slide down your throat beer, but with next to no hop taste and next to no malt sweetness or flavour. It's a bit of a nothing beer. It's really odd. Really odd. Really odd from Brewdog, that one. I mean, everybody was completely shocked last year when Brewdog brought out their pale ale, and it was a terrible beer. Brewdog's pale ale had terrible ratings on Untapped. It was rated terribly on Instagram and YouTube and every other social media platform where people talk about beer. I think Brewdog's pale ale was that one of those beer, as well as that indie pale ale they brought out a few years ago. But this has fallen into that same trap. This beer here has fallen into that exactly the same trap of what Brewdog were. I mean, we've all accepted now. We've all accepted we've all put it to bed, where we all know now, if we've been drinking Brewdog's beer long enough, we all know that they're never going to be, ever again, one of the best craft brewers in the world. It'll never happen. So I've accepted that. I've made peace with that in my own mind. But this is still unacceptable. This is still a bit of a shocker to have the Brewdog name on the can and have next to no hop flavour and have next to no hop malt flavour either, and just be a lactosey slide down, no real perfumey aromas. Just odd. Just really, really odd. A really, really odd beer. A couple of years ago, I probably would have been shouting and screaming and going nuts at this stage, but I just don't care enough anymore for Brewdog. I should have finished that properly. I just don't care enough anymore for Brewdog. I once used to care massively for Brewdog in the sense that when I had my first real bland beer from Brewdog, it was like I was throwing my toys out the pram, because I cared, because I'd always experienced some flavour from a Brewdog beer. But from what I can see now, from what I can see where the company is now in 2021, the whole giggling hipsters advert on the telly, to them producing a beer like this, I just don't care. I just don't really care for this company anymore. You know, it's I'm not. Certainly what I'm trying to say here is that I don't care enough to raise my blood pressure through the roof, and I don't care enough to shout and scream as I once did for the basic downfall in flavour of this brewery's beers. So I'm just going to, quite relaxed, in a very relaxed manner, give it to you as I want to give it to you, and that's that this beer is a bit of a shocker. I'm sure it's going to be the same shocking score lines are going to come through on Untapped. The same shocking score lines are going to come through on YouTube. But you won't see me shouting and screaming about it anymore. I'm just way past that. A rating for this beer: it's not undrinkable. It doesn't have any off flavours. But at the same time, it's just not offering me, as a person who likes a bit of flavour in their beer, it's not offering me anything at all. So even though the beer has no off flavours, even though the beer is it's very drinkable in that kind of lactosey sense, I'm still going to give it a 2 out of 10. I'm still going to give it a 2 out of 10. It's a shocker. It's a shocker. But thanks for watching. Please put your comments in the comments box. Subscribe to our daily beer and food reviews. Give us a big fat thumbs up. Boom. Cheers.